1 minute they're putting you on Mount Rushmore, the next you're quitting because it's too hot. How embarrassing. Plus, ice baths, goat talk, mini finals, purges, angels going down, devils rising up, toenails clipped, threat levels confirmed, and TJ brings a little bit of Vegas to Vietnam. It's the challenge Battle of the Airs episode 12. Holy cow, we're on episode 12 already. Recap coming up right now. What up, my fellow challenge lovers? Welcome to The Challenge Historian, where we dive deep into all things MTV's The Challenge, past, present, or future. If it's happening in the Challenge universe, we are here to document it. I am your host and dedicated Challenge Historian, Jacob Hollaball. Thank you so very much for being here with me a little later than expected. It's an early Thursday morning record here. We were not able to record immediately after the episode last night for a whole bunch of reasons that don't matter to you, but we're here now early the next morning getting this out. We did watch the episode live, reacted to it on social channels with all of you, and it continued the streak of pretty good episodes. The back half of this season has been very enjoyable, very good. We have one Johnny Bananas in large part to thank for that again. There is a lot to get to with this episode. Purges, a nice elimination, different mechanics going on in the house. We're nearing that final. We really are dwindling down here. And so plenty to get to. The only programming reminders are that we will be back each and every Wednesday the rest of this season. And then we will be adding some additional content for you coming later this month with all hopes there. Otherwise, that's really it. Same agenda as we always do. So let's hop right on in. Episode 12, Battle of the Eras. Here we go. We open with the house segment, which some of them this season we have basically gotten nothing. And this one, though, was one of the opposites. While there wasn't like a huge amount of substance, I feel like we got like 12 scenes. Like they were just going boom, 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 conversation to conversation. So we got I don't know the minute wise of the actual show. I think it was still like the 7 or 8 minute mark, something like that we were off to the daily challenge. But it felt like we saw a bunch of things. It was just kind of how much do any of these things really matter? A couple of them worth pointing out, though. First one, the backyard ice baths. I loved that little montage and brief scene. It might seem like a complete throwaway to a lot of people watching. I'm just a huge fan of ice baths and cold, hot therapy, different things of that nature. So I was kind of into the backyard style, them trying to squeeze them big old butts, as some of them it turned out to have, down into the trash can. And I found it very interesting just kind of on that point. There has been a lot of discussion by the cast members about the conditions on this season and what they were or were not given, et cetera, et cetera. But we do get little glimpses, like obviously they at least gave them ice for this ice bath to some degree, potentially. They didn't actually give them a nice cold plunge to use, but they do have the Normatec leg, recovery pieces that we see a couple people using throughout the episode. So they really have, they continue to up level like what's available for the physical fitness, working out and recovery. They just maybe the beds in the house could be a little better. The food could be a little better, those sorts of things. Moving on. There is a Bananas and Laurel scene at the beginning that when I watched it and we hear, we get Laurel, I'm playing for, I won All-Stars 4. I'm the only one in vet school that isn't in debt because I won that and could put the money towards it, and, what she's playing for, the whole thing. And then we get Bananas. Why do I even, at this point, you win a bunch. What are you playing for? I'm playing for my dad this time. That scene to me was the moment where I was like, not that the last 2 episodes there was any question weren't going to completely and utterly revolve around Johnny Bananas and what he was doing and the position he was in and everything else. But I was like, I'm starting to get the feeling of like this was like a nice little 3-episode run reminder of the Bananas of old, the ultimate challenge cast member. And now I saw that scene and was like, that was a Bananas is going home type of scene. I didn't see it as a Laurel's about to go home type of scene, which it turned out to be. More on that in a minute. Rachel, the winners edit is just going really hard for Rachel right now. Now, obviously it's all deserved. Whenever I reference like what the edits are in the show, it is never on its own a commentary, positive or negative, about the cast member in any way. It's an observation about what we are seeing and how much that resonates, is like we needed to see that, or just comparatively to everything we could possibly be shown, it might stand out that we're seeing a lot of this person and stuff that might be a little lower down, and I'm sure everyone is doing, but we're seeing it from them. And something like her conversation here with Kylan it's not a throwaway conversation, but we get the nice duel 2 reference of her kind of being like, this game is shaping up in the way I like, which is like this season I did before, where we are incentivized because of the structure of the game for the best women and the best men to work together and to be in an alliance together, which is an astute observation by her. I like that she's filling Kylan in. I'm sure Kylan was like, I already actually know all this, but I like hearing it from the person who did it, because he is a historian of the game himself. But that scene, and that every week we seem to be getting the little nuggets of like, just a reminder, Rachel is still over here playing a flawless social and strategic game this season. Just a reminder, feels very much like potentially a winner's edit of the season, but also just like she is the last of era 1, has been for a minute now already, and wanting to really put forward it, someone from all the eras of the show. And so I think even if she was playing a horrible strategic game, which I don't believe she's even capable of at this point, I think we would be seeing a lot of her, but she was playing a flawless one. And so we're getting that real positive edit and getting the little moments with her. And then finally, the big scene to discuss from the open is Jordan and Tori discussing, wanting to win again, and their standing within the challenge, their legacy. And Jordan saying, world championships, that was cool, but I want to win here again. I want to get to a 5th win. I want to tie CT, and I want to be in the GOAT conversation. And a couple things from this interaction. The first one is they go at one of my pet peeves. I know. The only one here, I'm going to make this a short version. There is a long version available in multiple places you can go find, but Mount Rushmore is not the best ever. It's an incorrect analogy, and it bothers me. Just say top 4, just say top 5, just say whatever you want to say, the best ever. Have a different discussion for Mount Rushmore. It's interesting. You can look up my YouTube video or the audio listeners podcast version. Just search Mount Rushmore within my feed. You'll find it. I explain the whole thing. I give you the challenge Mount Rushmore. It's all there. But the graphics team does an amazing job with the challenge. The editing team does an absolutely amazing job. It's really, really leveled up the last couple seasons. This one especially, that Mount Rushmore that they depict of Laurel, Kara, Bananas, and CT is looking a certain way. It doesn't look ideal. Kara's actually looks, I think, is the one that was like, oh, that looks like fine. But I work a little bit in the editing world. I get it. That's not something you needed to spend any more time on. But what you should spend time on is that means that the challenge and production, they put out their best ever. That was their list. They said it's Bananas and CT, and it's Kara and Laurel. And, those are certainly, on the men's side, those are the correct 2. If they're doing the incorrect Mount Rushmore analogy and saying the 2 best ever, that's the best 2. And Kara and Laurel are certainly in the small handful of women who are competing. It's just not as clear and decisive on the women's side. So you could throw a different name in there over one of them or over both of them easily, the way it is on the men's side, where it is a pretty clear cut. But Jordan is correct that if anyone has earned the right to be right there with those 2, it is him. And he is the one person whose argument I definitely take to heart of, if there's anyone that we should say is actually better or could be perceived, or I would have no issue. That's the best way to say it. I would have no issue if someone was like, I think the best male challenger ever is Jordan. He is the one person I would be like, it's not, it's Bananas, and I would give you my whole thing, but I would totally not be like, you're crazy. And even the Landons, the Wesses, the whoever else you want to say of the world, the Derek Kaczynskis, because earlier in the season, they go hard on the Derek Kaczynski's the best male ever. It's like, he's not. He's amazing, absolutely amazing, but like, let's not go there. That was my reaction to him or anyone else who you might put in a top 5 or a top 10 being mentioned as the best ever. But Jordan is the single person who I'd be like, no, it might actually be a top 3 now. It might, and regardless of if he wins this season or not, it might just be a top 3 with him, CT, and Bananas. So I liked that. I liked how Tori was thinking of it. Like, I just want to win a second one. And her having some humility and being humble of like, I've won once. These women have won 2-3 times, and they've been to way more finals, and they've just done it a lot longer. I like that she's having that. She's really not that far behind them in any way. Like, if she were to win this season, she's right there with the resume of any of the great, of Cara, of Laurel, of Evelyn, of Paula, my girl Paula, who deserves to be in that conversation always and forever. Of anyone you want to put in that discussion, she's there. If she would win again, she's already around circling that discussion without even winning again. And we'll touch more on that with the daily challenge win. So let's go ahead and move on to that. For the daily challenge, shout out to, I forget which of my 2 heavy commenters on YouTube. You both know who you are. I appreciate all the love and support. Which one of you, though, did the sleuthing for me last week and discovered that the desert in Vietnam, it does exist. There is a bit of a desert. And the thing about it, though, is it's like, I forget, 4 or 5 hours, something crazy far away from where the house is located. And I thought they had in recent seasons gotten a little tighter on how ridiculous of bus rides they were making these people do for some of the challenges that they had gotten, kind of found their groove, especially like, they did half a dozen seasons in Croatia recently. So they kind of had it mapped out, and not that it was like, hey, it's in your backyard every time, but I felt like they were getting to a better place. We know old school challenge, there was plenty of times where it was like, you're going to hop on that bus for 5 hours to go do a 20-minute activity, and then you're going to hop on the bus 5 hours back. Well, this one, they had to hop on the bus probably for 4 to 5 hours, but at least it was a nice, long, hot activity that felt worthwhile for such a long bus ride. And I love that they've branded things the mini final in the past, but they've usually had the cast members do the branding, and in the confessionals talk about like, oh, the mini final, you got to step up for the mini final, then have the cast members kind of put it forward as like it's in the lexicon. But maybe I'm just misremembering, I don't know. But this one felt like the first time where TJ was like, it's a staple of the challenge, and so for season 40, we got to announce it, we got to let you know this is the mini final, this is the pre-test to see how you all stack up before the real test that some of you will get to do later on. I like the branding of the mini final. I think every season should have one, and should be an actual, like, this is a miniature final. You got to run a little bit, you got to do a water paddling sport a little bit, you got to do a couple puzzles, and that's really, and there's some strength element to like either having to lift or carry something at some point. This is a really good mini final. It takes a lot of the elements of a final and puts them together. I don't love some of them that are just like really long endurance. It's like, that's the mini final. It's like, okay, well, yeah, they had to run a bunch, so you get your true endurance check on some people, but it didn't have that many of the elements. I digress. Anyways, I like branding it a mini final. I like an actual good mini final. I think this was it. And I am good with a purge. I love a single purge on a season. I think one per season feels exactly right. It's a nice little jolt. I like that if that's the standard, that the cast would kind of always be on edge of like, which day are we going to show up? And TJ's going to be like, we're purging people. You're out of here. I'm into it. I like it. I think it works well. I think this one was well timed as far as where in the season they did it. And I think that the mini final being the purge is kind of not, they kind of go hand in hand together. It kind of makes a lot of sense to me. So I think they really, really did a good job. I think they've done a great job overall planning this season, the format, the structure they've taken, the whole thing. I think they've really, really, really done awesome thus far, and we'll see if they can finish it off here. But this went well and was, right in line with feeling that way all throughout the seasons. Let's discuss some performances because there was a bunch of standout. There was a bunch of good information gathered here. Tori, we just referenced it. We'll touch it up here, finish it off. She's right there with these legends. I know she's a little younger than them at this point and like a little more in her quote unquote challenge prime, whatever. She's right there. This, she's gotten what, first, second, and first in the three solo challenges where Cara and Rachel and Jenny are all three definitely trying to win all of those. It's not like any of them are totally sitting back, maybe on the one off day. They're not necessarily gunning it for first, but Laurel, we can't say as much. But basically, all these 5 legends that we've got here, these absolute monster beast women, are all going for it. And she's 1, 2, and got second in the other one, and she smoked them in this. I know it ends up being whatever. I don't have my notes right up in front of me. I think it's like 4 or 5 minutes, but in front of Rachel. I want to pull this up. I want to actually know for you. It's horrible podcasting to be scrolling through my notes to try to figure this out. But let's see. Yeah, Tori was at 118, so they say, and Rachel was at 125. 7 minutes is a hell of a difference, okay? And then I don't think they showed the time for anyone after that, but Tori smoked them. She dominated this, and for anyone who, maybe views her, maybe if you're just not a fan of her as a cast member or whatever, you like to root against her, all that's great, fine, do as you will, do it. There's always a respectful way to be rooting against someone on the challenge, and a maybe disrespectful way to do it that has to really be earned by the cast member. And I don't think she's anywhere earned the disrespectful version. I don't know that very, very few people ever have. Let's just leave it at that. But if you're one of those that's like, she's not nearly as good as a Cara, as a Laurel, as a Rachel, even as a Jenny, you're wrong. She's just as good as all of them. And she deserves to be right in that class with all of them. And she is proving it here. Does that mean she's about to just get to the final and dominate the final? No. Lots of different things that happen. She could get first. She could get last. She could not get there at all. All options are still on the table. But she is proving herself and her standing historically in the game with this. And I just love that we're getting this group of women competing against each other in an individual fashion, so we can see how they kind of stack up versus each other right now. Jenny, speaking of one of those other women, is hitting the inhaler a lot during this challenge. And I know it's super hot. I know they're in the desert, but I'm going to guess that final is going to either be in the desert or on top of a mountain or both somehow. And it's making me a little nervous. That's all I'm going to say. I can't remember. I haven't watched Total Madness in a very long time. And so I think the asthma was like a thing, but I don't remember if it was like she was busting out the inhaler in the final and it was fine. Like as long as she had it, she was good or not. But it was making me nervous for her prospects in a final versus the rest of these women, the amount that she needs to use it. Bananas, I think he can hang. I think this showed that he can hang. Yes, he ends up pretty far behind Kyland and Jordan, but I do think, that comes down to he messed up the puzzle on the first go through, the memory thing on the first go through. And if he doesn't, he's right there, right on their heels. He beat them to that section and the whole thing. So I think we saw he can hang with Jordan and Kyland in a final scenario if he does his P's and Q's right on the puzzle functions. Derek was the one I got excited for the mini final and be like, all right, like we haven't got a ton of Derek this season. He has been a little bit in the background. I was ready for him. I know the man, whoever wins on the male side of this doesn't actually get to have any influence on who goes in, but maybe, just maybe, if it was Derek and I don't know, maybe if it was Rachel or someone that had a deal with both Jordan and Bananas, maybe there's a world where the male's opinion does get taken into consideration of like, who would you prefer out if I don't want to decide it by myself or whatever. But I wanted more from Derek. I was like, okay, he can run and he can do puzzles. So this mini final is absolutely perfect for him because there isn't like a huge strength element. The lifting of the things is a bit of a workout, but otherwise, this is run. I guess the paddling is more of a strength thing and definitely a technique thing if you've never paddled before or not. But I wanted a little more from him. That bummed me out. I don't know. But I'm looking at him as like sneaky. You let him in the final, you don't know what could happen if he can run laps around all of you that aren't named Jordan, or maybe not named Kyland at this point either. But was left wanting a little more. Speaking of Kyland, absolutely for real. Absolutely for real. Also, I believe is like first, second, or whatever in the 3 solos. I know that Jordan and Bananas aren't necessarily trying their best to win these, but I don't care. Kylan's smoking them in all of these. He's absolutely dominating, and he is for real, and deserves to be right there. The 3 of those guys are, as we'll get to the power rankings at the end, in their own tier, in an equal tier right now of who do I think is going to win this whole thing on the men's side. Speaking of though Jordan maybe not trying though, I think if this was an actual final, Jordan would have won. I don't, there's no proof of that. That's a ridiculous thing. He doesn't even allude to that or anything in there. And his ass was on the line. So you'd be like, of course he was trying 100%. He wanted to stay out of elimination. I think he felt pretty good that he wasn't going to end up in elimination, almost no matter who won. On the women's side, and I don't know. It's just the thing. I think he would have won if this was a real final, and we'll find out in the real final potentially if him and Kyland are both there, what that actually looks like. Aviv, absolute badass, as I said last week, someone who is actively dealing with plantar fasciitis right now, has an appointment for the sports medicine doctor this Friday, tomorrow. There's no way I'm doing what she's doing right now. It's not like the craziest, most severe injury on the planet by any means. It is certainly capable, but it is painful and a little risky to be running through the desert as she is. So badass Aviv. And then finally, the 2 people that are purged. Nehemiah, he didn't get to shine this season. He didn't really get a chance to be a main storyline in any real way. For those who either haven't watched All Stars, I don't know what you're doing, or haven't rewatched All Stars, it's well worth your time. I think Nehemiah has been maybe the male face of Challenge All Stars. It's hard, not in such a way that it's like definitively like it's Nehemiah and whoever. There also is a definitive female face of Challenge All Stars, but he's been there for 2 or 3 of them, right? 2 of them, 3 of them, and he's done very well on all of them. He's proven himself time and time again on the competitive side, on the strategic side, social side. And I think he needs to get his flowers. And it was kind of a bummer that he ends up, going out on a purge on a season where we didn't get a whole lot of him. He gets to say he beat CT and added another big name to his elimination list. But otherwise, good having him here, and look forward to seeing him again on something in the future. And then there's Laurel, who just quit. And, she did it in a way where it looks like she just got last. She doesn't have to have TJ, saying anything negative to her about quitting. But that's what she did. She didn't want to be there. She didn't want to run a final versus Rachel and Tori and Cara. She just didn't. Another thing I can't prove, another thing I'm sure if anyone says something like this and Laurel sees it, she will say, you're absolutely crazy. I had already lost. I was pissed off because it was in the heat. And so I just, I tried to have fun with it and enjoyed that I was going home and finally getting out of this misery and wasn't having a good time anyways, blah, 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 blah. I just don't, I think between the things she has done on the show and the things she has said in the commentary and the different beefs she has gotten in online. Currently, her and Nerys are in a whole thing, which is a whole thing that we're not going to discuss right here, right now. I think Laurel this season has been an absolute, not a legacy ruiner, but a dampener. It dampened the legacy a little bit, especially coming off All Stars 4, where it's like, ugly behavior, but you got it done. You got the win. And now it's like, yeah, you got the win in the Carnival games, the most Carnival game of Carnival games final ever. So yeah, you beat Cara. Great. Good job. But you had a chance to really compete against Kara and Rachel and Jenny and Tori and all these legendary women. And you can say at best case, you just got smoked in the mini final and purged out. In worst case, you kind of wanted that to happen and kind of allowed that to happen. And I didn't like all of it. I can't believe I'm glad that Laurel is off of a season. I can't believe I'm saying that. But yeah, I'm glad Laurel's gone. Back to the house, and we'll quicken the pace here. I know this is chalking up to be a longer podcast, but Derek, Miss Cleo, great time. Love the whole crew having fun with it. Love Theo's version of Miss Cleo, Miss Bananas Slayer, whatever he says. That whole scene, very, very fun. Bananas, his antics, the clipping of the toenails, trying to prove his point, talking over everyone. It doesn't hit nearly as hard this week as the last 2 weeks that have been just absolutely incredible entertainment. It's still fine. I still had a good time, but was mostly having a good time with Tori's reactions back and Kara's quotes back and different things like that. So I was mostly having more fun with the reaction to Bananas on this one than his antics himself. But still gets a very good grade for trying his absolute damnedest to provide the entertainment and the drama and doing so in what seems to be a real authentic way. And good on Tori for, again, going right back at him, not having any of it, talking back, not caring, being okay with whatever this relationship is outside of the game. We'll see, but he's being a dick and I don't care. And I'm on the other side of him and it's kind of fun. And I like that she's kind of having fun with it because I think myself and a lot of fans are having a good time with it. And I think she's having an awesome season. And as I said before, I think and I hope earning a little bit of the love back from the crowd that turned on her so fiercely over the last 4 or 5 seasons she was on. Maybe winning a few of those people back over of maybe she's just an all-time great cast member and you rooted against her for a long time. And now maybe you can be a little more enjoyable rooting for her briefly. Then we've got the arena. The game is great. I really enjoy the game. The high-low aspect of it is silly. It wasn't as silly as the last time we saw high-low in the middle of Total Madness final where, they had to go down and play Mel or Bananas and it was completely pointless. And the only thing it did is stop Cam from probably having a shot to be in the final 2 and on that puzzle. But it actually, and the silliest part of it all is maybe one of my favorite. I got a lot of laughs out of that. TJ every single time would hold the card up forward towards the camera where no one on the dais could see and where Bananas and Theo had to step forward and look for it. And I was just yeah, I know we're making a TV show, but you could allow Bananas and Theo to maybe stand where they could just see as you pull the card and not have to look around. I don't know why. That was just making me laugh every single time where he held it up and Bananas especially was I really have to walk around again to see this. Can I just stand over here? Can I just stay over here? I liked that, but I don't really need that level of pure luck. No one got totally screwed here. I was waiting for the one where it's it's a 3, I'll go high, of course, and then it's a 2, and you've got to be kidding me. There was no super duper bad luck. It mostly evened itself out on the polls. I lost count at some point on the way through. They stopped letting Kylan keep, Bananas told him to stop doing the simple math for all of them, but it was pretty even all the way through. And for those who want to say, oh, what do you know? Johnny Bananas gets another elimination that's set up for him. Theo's way too big for this. I'm not going to do my whole they don't rig the challenge rant again here. Search half of the podcast recaps in the history of the show probably, and you might find you got a good chance of landing on one of the episodes where I do the they don't rig this rant. But the only thing I will say about this one in particular is Theo is an absolute outlier on this show. Okay. If you think anything is rigged and you think any part of this particular one is one of them that would be rigged, you then believe that they hate Theo, that they were let's design a challenge that would be the hardest for the biggest, tallest person here, and let's save it until Theo's in elimination because he is an absolute outlier. I recently got to briefly meet CT at Challenge Mania. And guess what? You could go to my Instagram and look at the picture. I'm the same size as CT. Okay. And he is this big behemoth beast within this show. Now, he is that. I'm not saying size equals athleticism or ability or anything like that, because that is far from true. And I would never compare myself to a man of such legendary athletic prowess as CT. But it is to get the point across that almost all of the guys on this show are like 5'8", 5'9", 5'10", okay? And that Theo is a huge outlier at, no pun intended, at like 6'6" and whatever. And so if you think, oh, they fucked Theo over by giving him, the thing, like, yeah, they did. But guess what? He had a hall brawl earlier in the season and gave Paulie multiple concussions within seconds of each other. Extraordinarily dangerous and not good. And that was all because he was way bigger. Okay. And so, yeah, Bananas gets lucky in the draw of what the game is and then has to go get it done regardless. There's a lot of luck involved in the challenge overall. And a lot of it comes down to what elimination do you get versus what opponent and who does it suit and who does it not. And in this one, yeah, this one suits Bananas a little better than Theo. Bananas is pretty broad shoulder, barrel chested, like thicker guy too. That like, I don't think this was like some overwhelming, like shit, Theo has no chance. I think the height actually even can help. Anyway, I'm going too far in that. It's not rigged. I guess I kind of did a rant anyways. There you go. I liked Derek pointing out during this, there is, the last level of the strategy, the last onion to peel back here on the strategy side of this season is like Derek in there being like, I'm actually rooting for the guy I want to leave because he's going to pick all of my alliance member women as the targets, which means one of them will win the elimination next week and I won't be a target. So this is kind of weird, but I got to root for the person I want to lose to target the people I'm working with so that I, in the future, continue to be safe. Very, very astute by Derek. And I think that was the last portion of how the mechanics of this season and this format work that we hadn't had completely explained by a cast on the show. And so great job to him. Bananas gets the win. Theo goes out with like a touch of his mojo back. His athletic mojo had definitely, we'd lost a lot of it on this season and even previous world championships, seeing him come back and everything else. He's still an absolutely fantastic cast member. Definitely want to see him back. And I think he regained a little bit of the mojo here, overcoming the, he got not screwed because again, it's the challenge. These things happen, but he didn't get last with the 2-minute penalty and it just happened to be a purge. So he still ends up in elimination being second to last. But you're still second to last after being last in the one before it. And but he puts up an incredible showing, great showing here. Bananas, great showing, confident win, gets another elimination win. Now has the most elimination wins in flagship history, has won 6 in a row. He used to have like the glaring thing on his sterling resume was like very beatable in eliminations, a lot of different kinds of eliminations. He had a way, like, I think he's 16 and 15, something like that now, and was won 6 in a row. So like that would mean if those are the correct numbers, he was 10 and 15 at one point, like, so he's really cleaned that up in a big, big way and now has yet another challenge record. And the final thing I want to say here is we do, every third episode, they remind us the karma points is happening in the background and everyone's getting to do them. And I think it's already safe to say now that Bananas can't win this season. If the karma points have anything to do with like, are you allowed or not allowed to win? Or like they actually a setback from you winning anything, getting any money, whatever, he just keeps ones across the board over and over. We have seen that. And like, so I just don't, unless this is just purely based on karma points, you get to start first, second, third, and fourth in the final, whatever it is. Sure. Anyone can win and overcome. It's a disadvantage, but people can overcome it. But if it's like, it gets to the end and it's like, hey, okay, so now you have to have a certain threshold of karma points to be allowed to do the final stage of the challenge. Goodbye, you, and you. Or you won. Let's see how much money you get based off your karma points, which is, I think, what it's going to be. I think it's going to be like, you won and got first, you got second, you got third. Here's the last twist. It's not totally over. Based on the karma points, the winner can only get X amount if they have this amount, whatever, and somehow it matters how much money you get. which would beg the question, is there any chance that this is setting up to be the, Sarah Rice isn't there to do it herself, which is a bummer. But is this setting up to be Bananas wins and then has the money, or at least a lot of it, taken from him, or even the win taken from him because everyone hates him, and collectively, essentially as a collective, the entire Challenge 40 cast says, Johnny Bananas, we are stealing the money, we are stealing the win from you. To the awards we go. Best quote, Tori, not one of Bananas' angels. I'm his fucking nightmare this season. There was much more to that quote, but I really enjoyed it and just didn't type the whole thing down. Jenny, I loved this moment, and I'm glad we're getting a few more of these sprinkled in to continue to remind people what I have reminded people, that Jenny is an unbelievable cast member, and she is anything but boring. She was just completely edited out of Total Madness because they had to edit out D. They chose to. An interesting choice, and just grows more confounding by the day. But, quote, what about a casual nighttime drowning? Something happens in the house. We don't know who did it. That was how she talks to her alliance about how they can get out of the situation. It's a great joke. It's a great quote, and it's a great amount of fun. I love Jenny so much. Kyland, I also liked this little tiny moment during Bananas' little tirade. He throws in, the like, Kyland, you dress like crap, and Tori, you're not that good, or whatever he says to Tori. And after they leave, and Kyland's like, how did my wardrobe come into play? It's so simple. It's just a t-shirt. I loved that little moment and quote from him. And then Cara, quote, Bananas really wants to be Peter Pan of the challenge, but in reality, he's Tinkerbell. He needs attention or he'll die, and he's bratty as fuck when he doesn't get his way. And quote, that's your winner. That was a really great reference, quote, the whole thing. It just works on so many levels. Great job, Cara. Maria, best moment. I like the ice bath. I like Jordan and Tori talking about GOAT. I liked Kyland and Tori winning the daily and just kind of having that moment of like, yeah, these two are right there with the other legends that they are competing against, like that. Tori telling the house about Bananas in the chamber, and the Cara's reaction, Michelle's reaction, the whole thing, like that. And then the one we didn't discuss, really, Josh and Michelle during the elimination, didn't discuss at all. We had not discussed it at all till right this very second. I found that interesting. I definitely think, Josh continues to get called out for being friends with everyone, and it doesn't really matter because he's friends with everyone and is pretty well protected. But I do appreciate another moment of Michelle being like, I'm going to speak my mind and I'm going to say my shit here, and this is annoying, and shut the hell up. And I just liked it. And I don't know. I liked that there was some extra confrontation and friction over there on the dais. As for MVP, Derek gets a vote here. Theo gets some votes. Cara gets some votes. Tori definitely gets a good amount of votes. But for the third week in a row, there is only one MVP of the Challenge Battle of the Years, episode 12, and that is Johnny DiVinanzio. Targets, power rankings, and predictions. The targets are Michelle, Olivia, and Cara. And if I try to break that down of who wants who to win, which is the most interesting thing about the targets week to week, is I think Cara has the best lineup here. She has done the best job, even though she isn't necessarily in super duper rock solid alliances with almost anyone on the men's side. And she's kind of, joined the anti-angels side of the house in general. They've kind of just are this one conglomerate that is and isn't working together. I think she's by far in the best situation, and has, I think, seen that I don't have to be too locked in with anyone, because if I'm just grouped in with Michelle and Olivia and formerly Naya, I'm probably going to be okay versus them, both in an elimination or versus getting sent in, because I think Cara, if Corey wins, I think he's saving Cara. I think if Derek wins, he saves Cara, even though he's good friends with Michelle and Olivia at this point. I think he rides with his era too, and they're all in kind of an alliance together. And I think if Jordan wins, I think Jordan would be like, I want the best women here, so I'll pick Cara. Like, I'm not aligned with Michelle or Olivia, so I think she's good with any of those three. This is going to sound insane, maybe after the last handful of episodes, but I think Michelle might actually want Bananas to win. I think Bananas could, in this moment, do the same as I just said for Jordan. And if Bananas won and it was all three of Michelle, Olivia, Cara to pick from, I think I think he might be like, Cara, I'll do you a solid. I want the strong women here. I've said it was never personal, and it was more Laurel's decision earlier in the season. And I said, you came on my podcast, I will never target you again, cetera, et cetera. I think he might go that way, but I could see him leaning, like, if you're Michelle, being like, I kind of want Bananas to win because I think he's, equally anti me and Olivia. And I think I can be like, hey, dude, like, can we smooth over our friendship a little bit by, like, you can throw in my best friend Olivia instead of me. I think that could be there. And then Olivia, I don't really know who's. I think Olivia's getting thrown in. I think Olivia's got to win the daily, or she's going to end up in elimination. Let's touch on the power rankings real quick before we do those predictions, though. I'm crushing it on the power rankings, okay? Last week, Naya went home and she was at the bottom of my rankings, and so I nailed that. And this week, I had Nehemiah and Theo as the bottom two on my men's power rankings, and look who went home. So, just saying, don't be at the bottom of my power rankings. You very well might end up going home. Laurel wasn't quite at the bottom, so I guess I didn't technically have that perfect spot on. But on the men's side, Jordan, Kyle, and Bananas is 1, 2, 3. As I said before, I think those three are in an equal class of their own right now as far as odds. They win the final on Battle of the Eras. Corey, Derek, Josh would be the next three after that. So Josh, be on the lookout. You're on the bottom of my power rankings. I want Josh to make the final. It sucks because I need, for competitive interest, Jordan, Kyle, and Bananas to all make the final. I want to see all three of them go against each other. And I want Corey to be there. I want Derek to be there. And I do want Josh to be there now. Now that he's made it this far, I don't want him to go home in like the last elimination before the final again. That sucks. That sucks. You can hate Josh all you want, or, not like Josh on the show, whatever. That sucks. Yeah, he deserves better. So I don't know who I want to go. I think I actually want Derek probably too. Out of all six of them. On the women's side, Rachel stays in 1. Tori moves up to 2. Jenny's 3rd. Kara's 4th. And I kind of have this as Rachel and Tori in kind of like tier 1A. Jenny and Kara in tier 1B now. And then Michelle, Olivia, Aviv. Aviv only at the bottom again because of the injury concerns and thinking that, she got through this episode. It's an absolute badass, but I don't think she's winning no final on the injured foot. So, have her at the bottom. Predictions are, it does look like a very physical daily challenge again next week. I'm going to go with Aviv gets last and ends up in that elimination. I'm going to go with Kylan wins again on the men's side. And I think he throws in Kara then. If Kylan wins again, he definitely is like, Kara, I'm sorry, but I got to go with you. I'm not putting my friends Michelle and Olivia. So I guess Olivia needs Kara not to win and needs Kylan to win. She very specifically needs that to be safe and to not get last herself. The ladies of leisure like getting last in things. But yeah, my predictions are Aviv gets last, Kylan wins, throws in Kara, Kara beats Aviv, and we're down to 6-6 from there. So thanks for sticking with me. I know this was a bit of a longer one compared to the last few weeks, but there was a lot to cover and a lot of opinions to get out there. So thank you, as always, for being here for any portion of these episodes, for any single one of these episodes, for tuning in. Follow, subscribe, leave a rating, a review. Those things really do actually help a hell of a lot especially on Apple, if you're listening there. And as always, DMs are open at Challenge Historian on Instagram. Have been checking in with those less frequently, so it's probably usually like a day or two sometimes until I might respond, but I will respond. Same with any comments on YouTube. I respond to a bunch of them at least every single week. So thank you, love you, appreciate you. I will talk to you next week. Peace.